Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you. What a beautiful autumn evening. Is it just a gift? Yeah? And what about the horns and the tuba? The French horn. Wow. Something missing.
I'm sorry?
There's something missing, though.
Something missing.
A piano player.
The piano's never missing.
Yeah. Well,
Not
where's
to a
Aaron?
guitar.
Aaron was supposed to lead today.
Aaron. Oh, yeah, Aaron.
You got the horns? No, Aaron. What's up with that?
Oh, yeah, it's because Aaron's a dad now.
He's a dad. And he thought that having a child was excuse enough not to come into work, huh?
I talked to him even this afternoon.
Yeah.
I said, we still have the 6.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was committed to this place.
I think so, wouldn't you? And you're married.
Yeah, if you need any more proof, I am single. That's that. That's right there. So, I don't want to steal his thunder, but Aaron and Shauna are the proud parents of little Henry. As of 1:15 a.m., something like that, yesterday morning. So he'll be back soon with pictures and stories, and that person's still excited. And so, that wasn't you, Aaron, was it? That's not Aaron. So I talked to him this afternoon and saw his mom and dad this morning, so things are great. So share that news with everyone.
Excellent. That's good stuff, and maybe we'll pray for little Henry and welcome into the world with a blessing. I have an announcement. Last week we had some very inclement weather and an AIDS walk combined on the same day, but it did not keep Mars Hill from attending. It was a great turnout, and there was almost $50,000 raised for at the AIDS walk. That is more than any of the AIDS walks all over Michigan. That's a pretty good thing. And yeah, there's also an opportunity for you to go online and to continue contributing. Now, before I came up here, my senses were disturbed because a friend of mine, Joshua, from Iraq. Where are you? Josh, come on. I just saw you.
Josh,
there he is.
Here.
Come on up here. Come up here, Josh. This man here has just come back fresh from Iraq. He is our brother. We want to pray for him. We want to welcome you. Come on up here.
It's great to see you. Good to see you.
I'm sorry to do that. I mean, that's rude. That is rude. Hey, how about just come up here in front of 2,000, 3,000 people? My family has prayed for you, Josh, and now this family, we're going to pray for you. We're grateful for your sacrifice. We're so thrilled that you're back safe. That was just shocking to me when I saw you. So I'm going to pray for a number of things, including you, Josh. All right? Come on, Rob. Father God, we celebrate today a beautiful day. We celebrate our friend Josh coming back to us safely. He's got this brief hiatus, and I pray that before he returns to serve and to give his strength and his leadership to men, I pray that we as a community would be able to bless him. God, I thank you for life and safety, and we thank you also for the life of little Henry Nyquist, who has been born into our family today. Please bless him. We thank you for safety and for a good pregnancy. And God, as we turn our attention to your word, may you open up our hearts, and may you make us attentive to your coming kingdom. Thank you once again for all of the life and how we see you present in the return of our brother to us. In Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
You going to forgive me for bringing you up here like this, Josh? All right, man.
Well, we're having some church. I want to invite you to turn to the book of Luke, chapter 12. And we'll start there. And we've just been working through the simple truth that Jesus wants to save Christians. And so we're going to look at this passage in Luke 12 tonight, these things that Jesus says. And there are ushers. I believe they're element ushers. So it's not just an usher. It's not just an usher. It's a junior high usher. And one of these days we will launch that junior high valet service so you don't have to park and walk. We're just kind of working out the kinks there. Just a few more kinks and then we'll have that thing rolling. Pretty excited about that. Parking with a purpose, I think is what we're going to call it. And a parking purpose-driven church. And something like that, catchy. Now, I have this iPod. I was given this iPod. I believe it's the 40 gig iPod a couple of years ago. I have it in my study hooked up to one of those JBLs with the creature speakers. Love it. And so I use this actually quite a bit just in my study, like when I'm reading, working, all that kind of stuff. And then we also in our family, my wife doesn't just use your standard 2-year-old. You know, this is back when the iPods were huge. My wife uses a limited edition Numa video iPod in Numa Blue. Comes preloaded with the films. I don't want to see the films because I know what's said in them because I said it. So I don't want it. But my wife uses this limited edition Numa Blue video iPod. It's pretty sweet. And then there is a third iPod in our house. My 6-year-old claimed it, and it's an iPod Shuffle, which he wears. He actually uses the rope and walks around the house, kids with guns. And so this iPod Shuffle was given as a gift as well. But this gift is a little bit different than your average gift. On any given week, there's a stack of books that arrive here from all over creation, from people who would like us, who are asking, could you please endorse and let people know that this new book is coming out? And so the idea is that we would say maybe on a Sunday, hey, you all ought to read this book. Or then people online could hear about it, and then people would go out like you and buy the book, and then they would sell the book, and everybody would be happy. So we have wonderful books sent to us with, would you be interested in endorsing this? And so if we did that, then we would spend all day reading books and endorsing them. We don't have that kind of time. But there are stacks literally each week, and really great stuff. I'm building a wonderful free library. And but there's one publisher that wanted to distinguish themselves from the mass of people who send their books around places to be endorsed. So this publisher had the author read the book, then they downloaded the book onto an iPod Shuffle and sent out iPod Shuffles. Which, I mean, yeah. So actually, I probably should endorse this book. And my next question, of course, is when's the next book coming out? And if you thought about filming the author. And so this iPod Shuffle came, and then my son claimed it, the 6-year-old. The 6-year-old who can't read but can surf the net. The other day I'm watching him, and he's clicking around all these different kids' video game sites. And he's clicking it. He'd close up one. He'd open up another one. He has his own toolbar and drags it down, gets what he wants, closes it, goes to the next level, closes it. I said, you can't even read. How are you doing this? And he says, oh, I've done it before. Okay. I guess that's an explanation. He can't read, but he can move all over. So he uses this iPod. I live in a world where people give iPods away. Like, think of the kinds of resources that you have that you could actually send large number of iPod Shuffles. Now, a couple of years ago, we couldn't even conceive. Well, how many of you remember the 8-track? Yeah, exactly. Which raises the question, when is the next Sean Cassidy album coming? I think that's something that's just burned deep in our hearts for years now. But and I just dated myself with that. And so we couldn't even conceive of holding like literally hundreds of songs in like something the size of a stick of gum. So not only the technology absolutely blows your mind, but the fact that we live in a culture where this would appear in the mail as essentially a promotional gift. The latest numbers that I've seen of Kent County are the latest surveys estimate that somewhere around 1 in 10 people in Kent County do not have enough money to pay their food bill. So they are literally skipping meals. Kent County, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 2006. The latest estimates, 1 out of 10 people And if you've looked at unemployment rates, which were at about 7.6, the last I saw they're about 7.1 for Michigan, tied for the lowest in the country, it makes sense, obviously, then that more and more people are having a difficult time paying their bills. And so we live in a world where people can give iPods, shuffles away in large numbers as promotional gifts. At the same time, people literally are skipping meals because they don't have the resources to eat. And it all sits like side by side. It's all butts up against each other. I mean, even in this room, if we were to survey where everybody's at, I imagine we would find massive discrepancy. I imagine we would find people in this room not able to pay bills. And I would imagine we would find people with literally millions and millions of dollars. And it may even be in two gray chairs that are connected to each other. And somehow we have to navigate this tension. Something says it's not right. Something within my guts, my soul tells me it's not right when we have this much, and at the same time others are lacking the basics. Something says there's something out of whack here. Are you with me? How do you navigate this tension? Now, this interaction Jesus has and the story he tells as a result of it dig up all sorts of these kinds of issues. In Luke chapter 12, verse 13. And there's so much here. I'm just glad that we're going to go till 9 o'clock tonight because it's so thick. And so I want to just walk you through a lot of it will deal with the context and the words that are used here. Just to give you an idea what is going on here. We talk often about the layers in the Scripture, how there's the initial reading, and then there's the next layer, and the next layer, and then you can go deeper, and you can push it farther. Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Now, first and foremost, a rabbi like Jesus did not make these kinds of legal decisions about how an inheritance got divided. So there were separate. And the first century sources, namely the Talmud, has specific rules about what a rabbi like Jesus did and then what other kind of legal authorities did. So it was not the job of a rabbi like Jesus to make a decision about how an inheritance got divided. That was somebody else's decision. So the man is not coming to Jesus saying, make a decision, make a legal decision about how the inheritance is divided. Secondly, an inheritance in the first century was always about one thing, land. The dad would die, and there would be a family piece of land that was probably given to the family going all the way back to Joshua and the conquest of Canaan, hundreds of years. And that piece of land would be owned by the father. It'd be a family piece of land. And when the father died, the land was given to the sons, according to pre-described laws and rituals about how that went about. So when he says, tell my brother to divide the inheritance, it's a piece of land. And there is some sort of conflict between the two brothers about how the land is going to get divided. So, in this one sentence, we have two brothers in the Middle East with conflict regarding who owns this land. I think we've heard this before, correct? Yes. It's a parable, it's a story, it's an interaction about two brothers in the Middle East who have conflict over the basic question, whose land is it? Now, there is some sort of fractured relationship between the two brothers. The man who comes to Jesus isn't asking Jesus to make a legal decision about who gets what piece of land. The man has already made up his mind how much he should get. He's not asking Jesus to divide. He's asking, I know how much I should get. And he just wants Jesus to use Jesus' authority to coerce the brother into going along with his decision. The man has already decided. What's the thing going on here? Greed. He's greedy. And he's decided that he should get this much. And he wants his brother to go along with it. And he can't get his brother. So there's a fractured relationship because his brother won't do what he wants to do. And so he wants to use Jesus to get what he wants. Now, there is some sort of division between the brothers. If Jesus were to charge in and make the division, then he would essentially be legalizing the separation. There is a broken relationship between these two brothers, and instead of going at why are these two brothers separated, the man simply wants the separation to be final, so he gets his piece, and his brother gets another piece, and they can be on their way. Jesus smells all of this, and Jesus does not want to be used. And so Jesus responds, "Man," Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me?" I don't know if he said it like that, actually. That's it. Man, who, I don't know how to say it. Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Now, Jesus comes off a little bit like hacked off. Why? Here's the word he uses. The word arbiter is the word meristes in the Greek language. It means divider. The man already has made up his mind. He's greedy. He wants this big chunk, and he wants his brother to go along with the decision he's already made. So he comes and he wants to use Jesus' authority to get what he wants, to essentially finalize a division between he and his brother. And Jesus says, "What? Who made? I'm not in the business of splitting up families." See, the man's cry to Jesus appears like it's a cry for justice. Like, "I'm getting the short end of the stick here, Rabbi. You, my brother, tell my brother." His appeal, it masquerades as he's a victim and he just wants justice. But it's not. It's greed. And Jesus sorts all of this out. And instead of saying to the guy, "Yeah, you're right," says, wait. What am I, a divider of families? Don't come to me to divide your family up. "Watch out," verse 15. "Then he said to them," which means probably turn to the crowd and Jesus' disciples. "Then he said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Now, there are two words in Greek for life. There's the word bio, where we get like bio, and it refers to physical life. It's not the word Jesus uses here. He uses a different word. It's the word zoe, and it's a nuanced word. It means equality of life, but it means blessing. It means the life that satisfies. It's this rich, wide kind of word to describe life. And Jesus says quality of life, blessing, the kind of life that satisfies. Be careful, because greed will screw things up. The real zoe doesn't come from how much stuff you have. Verse 16, "And he told them this parable." So in good Jewish rabbi fashion, he switches gears and shifts into a story. "The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest." So there's this farmer, and his crops did extremely well. Verse 17, "He thought to himself." Now, right away, he thought to himself. The whole crowd would have been like, "He thought to himself." Why? Well, there's this phrase, "he thought to himself." In the ancient Near East, you lived all of your life in community. You had family, friends, you had your mates, your posse. Everybody rolled deep in those days. So the idea that you would make a life decision, just you, was a completely foreign concept. It was always assumed that you had this group of people that you were journeying through life with. So if your crops did really well and you had like this bounty, you would have been, right when you first saw those crops were going to do well and you were going to have a surplus, you would have been dialoguing with your friends. You would have been saying, like, "Look, I think my crops are going to do really well. I gotta sort through now what I'm going to do with this because I don't need it all." You were always discussing. In fact, there's a man named Kenneth Bailey who's done extensive research and spent extensive time living in the Middle East. And he tells these stories about the city gate as this place where the men of the city would gather to discuss things. And if they would go in the morning, and then you would spend all day discussing whatever matters: politics, family, religion, business, land, trading, commerce. And he talks about how the joy in these cultures was being on this journey with your friends and sitting at the city gate and discussing all these matters and getting the advice, the wisdom, the truth from all these different people on the things that you would think out loud, and your friends would help you sort through things. He tells about men who would begin discussing an issue and already early in the day know what decision they were going to make because of the input of their friends, but would stay the whole day and continue to discuss the matter just because it was so much fun. This assumption that you live your life in community. In this culture, you would never make a significant decision without bringing in the people who you trust most to say, what do you think about this? This is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm feeling. Talk to me. Keep me in line here. Give it to me straight. Talk to me. And so when this passage says, when Jesus has the man saying, he thought to himself, this man is alone. His wealth has isolated him. He's not just one of the guys down at the city gate, over at the pub, taking a walk with the friend. This is not a man this is a man whose wealth has isolated him. And so he thinks to himself. The initial crowd would instantly have connected this. Wait. This wealth has essentially isolated him from the community of people who everybody needs. Nobody would try to make their way in the world alone. Nobody would make a decision, even a minor decision, without consulting the people you love and trusted the most. So right away, the crowd would have been like, whoa. In fact, I think it's a medieval word, the word idiot. I believe the etymology is it's a word from the Middle Ages. Idiot means somebody who tries to live outside the village. The word idiot arose out of, an idiot would be the kind of person who tries to live alone, without the community. So all sorts of ancient cultures over the years, nobody would actually just do this alone. So the man, he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. So first off, he believes they're his crops. He has no larger vision that this bounty or this surplus comes from anybody or anybody's supplied it. He just calls them my crops. And he says, what shall I do? Now, he has food. He has an abundance of food. And in the first century, we know in Israel, where the taxes were unbelievably high, lots of people were very hungry. So this man has an abundance of food, surrounded by lots of people who are very hungry, and he can't figure out what to do with all this food. This is a slide picture taken in Sudan. One of the centers of the strife right now in Sudan is an area called Darfur, D-A-R-F-U-R. I assume you've seen Darfur on the news. There's been a massive civil war raging in Sudan up till today. I mean, it's going on strong. Basically, you have the Sudanese government, then you have the revolutionaries, and it's a giant mess. Basically, lots and lots of bloodshed. The latest survey estimate I've seen, they believe that so far in the Sudan, the latest numbers are they believe somewhere around 500,000 people have been killed in this civil war. And the number is growing each day, on their way to 600,000 deaths in this civil war. And it's going on right now. Let's just pause for a moment. What's that? 200,000 9/11s? I mean, we all know how we felt on 9/11. Then multiply that by 100 or 200,000 times. And you have an idea of the death toll in Sudan to this day. Other estimate I saw is they believe that because of the civil war, essentially you have a village that's unable to protect itself, and the people in the village hear rumors that the war is over the next hill and the fighting is coming their way, which will include burning, raping, pillaging, all sorts of inhumane things. And so everybody in the village has to flee. They believe that up till now, somewhere around 2.5 million people have been displaced from their homes in this civil war. It's an absolutely massive human rights tragedy going on right now. 2.5 million people, they estimate, are displaced, which is why you have pictures like this, where literally as far as you can see, overnight, whole tent cities will explode with people who have put what few belongings they have on their back, have fled from their town or village, and out in the middle of nowhere just put down a tarp and try and get some sleep. And so you have these literally cities of refugees sprouting up all over Sudan. Well, what if you lived where this picture was taken? What if this actual place where the picture was taken, what if that was your house? What if you lived right here and you woke up one morning and looked out and there were 20,000 people living in tents? What if you had a large refrigerator? What if you had spare bedrooms? What if you had significant resources? Would you say, what shall I do with my food? I have no idea what I should do with my surplus food. I have all these spare bedrooms in my house. What shall I do with all of this roof and space? No, you would not ask that question because it would be quite clear what to do with your abundance. Are we all tracking? You would not be fuzzy. Next slide. This is one of the pictures taken post-Katrina, where just massive damage, specifically in Mississippi and New Orleans. And several of you have been there, have told me what it's like just to drive down a street and just see whole neighborhoods just demolished, or the Ninth Ward in New Orleans. Well, what if you lived close to the worst devastation of Katrina and you were fine? And what if you owned a lumber company and you had endless surplus of wood and you didn't know, I don't know what I'm going to do with this plaster paint and wood. I just have no idea. No. What if you owned a grocery store and lots of people have no food and you had surplus of food? Would you be saying, if you lived in Hancock County, I have no idea what to do with this. What shall I do with this surplus? No. Why? Because it would be obvious. Well, of course, we have to take care of these people. What if you lived in a city that had significant unemployment? Next slide. What if you lived in a city where the estimates were that 1 out of 10 people were hungry? You probably wouldn't be asking, what shall I do, if you had blessing, if you had surplus, if you had extra food, if you had extra space, you probably would not be asking those kinds of questions because there are so many needs. Unless you had in some way managed to isolate yourself from the real problems of that city. Unless you had somehow managed to organize your life in such a way that you never actually rubbed shoulders with anybody who had any basic unmet needs. Now, you know statistically they're out there in droves. It's just that the only reason you'd be asking, well, what shall I do with all of this blessing, would be if in some way you'd found a way to isolate yourself from those needs and lived essentially in a world not having to see any of that, of all people who were all doing great and had similar levels of blessing and wealth. See, the man in Jesus' story, his wealth has isolated him, and he can't hear the cry of the hungry. And so he says, what shall I do? And then his committee of one comes up with an answer. Notice how the story continues. I always wonder if Jesus just made this up on the spot, because it'd be pretty sweet. Verse 18, then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. Now, the phrase tearing down and building up, if you're taking notes, was a phrase used about the prophet Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 10. So tearing down and building up was an epic phrase in the Jewish consciousness, used to describe courageous acts in the name of God. Jesus puts this phrase on the lips of this man who's chosen not to do courageous things from God, but his life has become all about him. I'll build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. The man plans alone, builds alone, he indulges alone. And then verse 20, but God said to him, you fool, or in the Mr. T translation, you fool. You fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And then Jesus wraps it up. This is how it will be with those who store up things for themselves, but are not rich toward God. Now, the words here that Jesus has God saying to the man are absolutely mind-blowing. First word, you fool, F-O-O-H. Now, the word in Greek is the word phren. It's the word actually aphron, but it comes from a word phren. Now, P-H-R-E-N is the Greek word where you get the word diaphragm. It refers to like the center where you breathe. And so the phren was thought to be, this section here, was thought to be by the ancients the seat of your passions, of your understanding, of your wisdom, of your breath, of your life source. In the same way, you breathe here. You feel your heart beating in here. You feel a certain heartbreak in here. It was thought that this region, this phren region, this is where it like happens, the seat of vitality, the seat of Zoe, life force. And so in the ancient world, this was seen as where it all happens inside of a person. And so phren was like this part. So euphoria or euphron referred to the good life, when you were breathing, when you were living, when you were filled with joy and passion and wisdom and understanding, when you were just soaring. That was euphron, which is where we get the word euphoria. Euphoria being that feeling like you are just filled with the very best life has. When Jesus has God say, you fool, it's aphron. It's the opposite. It's not just fool like stupid or idiot or dumb. It's without understanding, without wisdom, without passion, without life, without breath. It's like the absolute opposite end of the spectrum from all that's good. This is a harsh, crushing blow of a word. And God says, you aphron, without wisdom, understanding, passion, life, awareness, breath, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded of you. Now, the word demanded is a technical legal term. Next slide, please. It's the word apateo. Apo again, and then the word ateo, to ask. It's to recall, to demand back. It's legal exaction of a demand. You lend somebody something, and then legally you come and say, it's time for you to give me back what I lent you. Everybody would have known, it's like cashing in your debts. Everybody would have known this technical term. And Jesus uses it to God to speak to this rich man who says, essentially, your life has been, it's like God saying, your life has been on loan and I want your soul back. And the dude doesn't even have time to pack his bags. Boom, this very night. Now, if you read Jesus' teachings, I can't find any passage in Jesus' teaching, except for this one, where somebody does something so unspeakably horrible that their life is taken from them by God that night. When you work through Jesus, you don't find him saying things like, and then God zapped him and beamed him up. There's the only passage. What is it that this man did that is so unspeakably horrible that God says this very night, I'm taking your life back? Well, he's greedy. It's greed. It's not a passage about him believing the wrong things. It's not a passage about saying horrible things. He's greedy. And he has a bunch of surplus and doesn't share it with those who desperately need it. And God says, I want your life back. What a disturbing story. Now, I assume, next slide, that we would all say, like, his wealth was a gift. We're all cool with that. But his soul was a gift? See, if we say, like, his wealth was a gift, see, God gives you wealth, and then all that we have is from God, so we should sow our seed, we should bless, we should do all of that, and we all say, yeah, we're cool with that. And basically, 10%, there are joy boxes at the back. All right, now God's happy, we're all sweet, let's go. You know what I mean? Like for you and I, we're all cool with wealth is a gift from God, correct? That's not where the parable ends. That's not, Jesus doesn't say, so, are we all clear that your wealth is a gift from God? We are, great. That's not where the parable ends. The parable doesn't end with your wealth is a gift from God. The parable ends with the man's very life, turns out, was a gift from God. The parable doesn't end with God saying, okay, give me back all that food in the barns, give me back the cars, get all back. No. God demands his life back. Is your soul on loan from God? Is your soul and your finances and your surplus? In the parable, the man's soul and his wealth, his money, his bank account are all enmeshed. It's all one big pile. And when Jesus speaks and has God judging him, his soul and his money are all connected. They're not this over here and this over here. You know what? I'm going to take this. I'll take it all. And God says, this very life, this very night, you Ephron, I want your soul back. Maybe one of the initial things we can learn from this is Jesus wants to save Christians from having too much. Because it makes our life all about us. It isolates us. We lose the plot. And we end up disconnected and indifferent from real needs of a real suffering world. That begins with a man who's greedy over a piece of land and ends with somebody losing their life because of their greed. If the ushers would come, I'd like to explore what does this mean for you and I? If you're like me, these kinds of teachings, it's open-ended at the end. Jesus doesn't say, but seriously, it's all just a parable. Jesus doesn't say it's just a metaphor. It just hangs there at the end. If the ushers would come, we've just been asking around Grand Rapids, what are some of the needs? What are some really basic needs? Because if you're like me, I want to live my life in such a way that I don't have to ask, what shall I do? I don't want to be like this rich man and not have a clue what people need. I don't want to live out the dark side of this teaching. So we've been asking around Grand Rapids. We have partners, many of you, involved in all sorts of really, really fresh, vital things going on around our city. And we've discovered all sorts of fascinating things. First, the food drive this year in the city of Grand Rapids. Each year they've needed 10% more food than last year. This year, just to get the food banks up to what they need them, the people who've run it said they've never seen the food banks lower. More people are asking for food than ever. And what they need in the countywide food drive is they believe they need the equivalent of the weight of roughly 4,000 cars in food is what they need. And so at the top of the sheet, as you get it, we always need gift cards, especially to places like Mobile or Gas, Home Depot, Meijer. We endlessly need gift cards. You can drop those in the joy boxes or wherever. We endlessly have people in our community who simply, I just need gas to get to my job, and then I get to my job, I'll get my paycheck, I'll be okay. So we endlessly need those gift cards. You can drop those off. You can leave giant boxes of them. You can jam the joy boxes full of them. We love that. The citywide food drive, Kent County food pantries serve 5,500 families per month. And then you'll see there are 7 drop-off sites, which are all conveniently located on the map on the back side of the sheet. And then we have all sorts of great, really vital things going on. We have working with refugees who have just come to Grand Rapids from all over the world. And many of them need really basic things like household items, furniture, dining rooms, table, lamps, bathroom supplies, laundry, all of the basic toys for kids who have literally all their belongings have been packed in a suitcase and they end up in Grand Rapids and don't have a thing. Number 9, Dorchester House is one of the more under-resourced neighborhoods in our community. A group of people from Mars Hill have moved into that neighborhood, are living there. And one of the things, especially as it hits winter, is a lot of people in the neighborhood can't afford heat. Many of them will go months in the middle of winter with no heat. And we would love to be able to help out some of them. And I personally, Dorchester House has absolutely rocked me about what it means to be a Christian. If you are spiritually struggling, wondering what's the point of a church, wondering who's God, wondering what it means to follow Jesus, just have long lists of I don't want any part in this, I would beg you to consider visiting Dorchester House and just say to the folks down there, could you just show me around the neighborhood? I have seen God there in ways I can't begin to put into words. And somebody, I believe they have a connection with Mars Hill. It's a bit mafia-ish. But somebody just let them use a warehouse down the hill from the neighborhood. And so they're building a community center for kids in the neighborhood, which is just going to be brilliant. And, I mean, if you guys, seriously, you don't even, this is such unbelievable stuff going down in that neighborhood. And so they need TVs and stereo systems, and get them a good pool table, okay? Let's do it right. And there's just profound things going on. I can't say enough. Burton Elementary, our tutoring program, they need a laser printer, copier, electric 3-hole punch, electric stapler. Simply say this: give a stapler, save your soul. And board games, puzzles, soccer balls, which is the sport of the world. And by the way, someone help me out? Did the Detroit Tigers? Okay. Is the world flat? Or did the Detroit Tigers, I can't even say it, beat the New York Yankees? Seriously, that's like the world spinning backwards or something. That is amazing. Oh, brother. That is just awesome. Potter's House is this school in the Roosevelt Park neighborhood, and they're doing some, they need all sorts of sports equipment. And if you could visit that school and just see what is happening with these Christians who have moved into that neighborhood, and John Boyan, these just heroes of mine who have started this school, and it's so what Jesus would be up to. And they need assorted band instruments, and if they work, the parents appreciate that. And then Health Intervention Services, which is essentially health care for those who can't afford it. And they're starting some new centers, and it's just profound. And then Places to Bring Stuff, very technical language. In the Image, 13. 14, Love Inc., 15, Salvation Army. People just, everything under the sun, if you have, people need them. People need refrigerators, food, diapers. And then Alpha Women's Centers, baby items, formula, cribs, maternity clothes, diapers. These are all just really basic things that people in our city need. And I imagine that some of you think, well, wait, I have that stuff. And my friend Andrew Richards showed me a picture of a parking lot in Mississippi where a group of people were really well-intentioned and sent loads and loads of stuff down to help post-Katrina. But what they sent was their junk. And so there are giant parking lots in New Orleans and in Mississippi just stacked with piles of rotten food and smelly clothing from people around America who just sent it to be a blessing. They found in one of the piles 3 bowling pins. At least send a frame. This is not like get rid of your junk. This is, have I been given a surplus? And there are others who need this. And I could, in all humility, simply step forward and say, does anybody need this? Maybe for you there are larger issues of what it means to live in this consumer culture that we live in. Maybe you have larger cultural issues. Let me recommend 3 books that are really shaping me. Poet and Peasant and Through Peasant Eyes by Kenneth Bailey. He really helped me sort through some of my research for this teaching, and his whole section on the book of Luke and what Jesus says about those with needs in a cultural context is really, if you find the stuff tonight interesting, the background on what's going on in that little parable, an outstanding book. And then The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. The first chapter is about him going to buy jeans. And he's a sociologist, psychologist who walks you through what happens when a person has too many options. And he walks you through how in American culture, when you go to buy jeans and there are 42 different varieties, he walks through what that does to a person's psyche and how actually the massive choices we have can actually be a reverse form of freedom. And he takes you through. So this book, really profound about what it means to be in the culture we find ourselves in. And then I cannot recommend this book enough. It's very small, so it's good for the ego because you can read it fast. This is a priest from India named Anthony de Mello, and one of his disciples wrote down his sayings. And after he passed away, the last meditations of Anthony de Mello, the way to love, and it's his reflections on the teachings of Jesus. And he works through issues of attachment, issues of abundance, issues of possession, and he works through how our hearts get attached to stuff and how it brings us down. And this book, absolute brilliant stuff. If you find yourself in a fit of generosity this week, if you find yourself driving on that map, giving a whole group of things away, maybe you find yourself getting gas cards, maybe you realize, wait, this parable of Jesus, it's about me. And maybe if you find somebody saying, why are you so generous? Maybe you should just say, I'm just trying to save my soul. Dear God, please rescue us from having too much stuff. God, we do not want to be protected from the sharp edges of these words of Jesus. Please do not shield us from the brutal truth of what Jesus is saying here, that our souls and our stuff are connected. God, please do not give us room to escape. Please remove from our mind and heart all the excuses about why we can't do what Jesus says to do. God, please rescue us from a culture that always tells us to just get more. We want to hear the voice of this Jesus who calls us to a better way, life on a higher plane. We thank you for the forgiveness, the new identity, the restoration that we have in Jesus. We thank you that we don't have to do a thing to earn your love. We can just rest in it. We thank you that in Jesus you love us and accept us exactly as we are. And so, in response to that, we want to change the world. We want to relieve suffering. We want to be the hands and feet of this Jesus. We don't want to be the people so isolated and different that we have no idea what to do with what we've been given. We want to rub shoulders. We want to be in the flesh and blood of life so we can be the people you dream of us.